what I'm thinking, like, are we gonna be able to see them?
Yeah. Mr. McLeod, do you think you can push the seat back seat or the table back a little bit so we can see them? 'Cause I'm like, I'm
It's kinda hard to
extra
see,
short
you
too.
know? I mean, all the hearing of the public we have here, I don't need to add that. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Much better, much better.
So did you all want to, ask 2 questions apiece, like we always do?
Yeah, I'm fine with 2 questions.
You all want to do 2 questions apiece? What you all thinking? Okay. Counsel?
Sure.
Okay.
I got one.
Okay.
Give me one of yours.
I guess there's no hearing of the public though.
It is now 4:59. I want to ask everyone to put their phones on silent or vibrate as we go into our council meeting, our special council meeting. It is now 5 p.m. It is May 3rd, 2022, and I want to welcome everyone to our special council meeting tonight. It starts at 5 p.m., and after this, we will start our regular meeting at 7. Can we start with the roll call, please?
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Councilmember Curley,
Here.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Here.
Councilmember Lucido,
Here.
Mayor Owens.
Here, thank you. We don't have an approval of the agenda on here, but I think our Mayor Pro Tem wanted to add some things.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to add to the agenda for an item, to change, we'll add item 4 in, I guess, kind of move everything around, to council deliberations on a potential offer for a city manager. And I would also like to add, before that, any public participation, if there's anyone from the public that would like to speak before we start deliberations.
Can I get motion and support on that?
I'll support. Or,
That was my motion.
Okay. Motion and support, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Baker,
yes.
Councilmember Curley,
Yes.
Mayor Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is the hearing of the public. The first hearing of the public is now open. We'll have the second one at the end that Mayor Pro Tem just added. Seeing no one is ready to speak at the hearing of the public at this time, the first hearing of the public is now closed. We're going to go right into the city manager candidate interviews, and we're going to start with our first candidate, Mr. Ken Martin. Welcome. Welcome to the city of East Point.
Hi, thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate you having me.
And I don't know if you know the council here, but to my right at the end, you have Councilman DeMonico, you have our Mayor Pro Tem, Sarah Lucido, you have also to my left, Councilman Baker and Councilman Curley. So, and then you have our city manager, Mr. Albright, as well. And then you have a host of our directors over there, Director Holman, Director Rohib, our Director of Finance, Mr. Blum, and our awesome other parts of our team is Mr. McLeod and Mr. Gatson. So we want to welcome you. And so we agreed to do like 2 questions apiece. But before we do that, we're going to let you introduce yourself.
Thank you.
Council, do you have anything you want to add to what I was just saying that you probably want to, how you want to do things? The introduction is good.
No, just anxious to hear a story.
Okay, sounds good. You have the floor, Mr. Martin.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Ken Martin. I am a candidate here before you tonight. It's a privilege and it's a pleasure to be here before all of you to be considered for this job.
If you don't mind speaking in the microphone, if you don't mind. Yes, thank you.
There we go. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. I guess I was hoping that my resume would be before all of you and that would sort of speak for itself, and that I would answer questions based upon the resume. I'm here as long as you need me.
Okay, that was a nice introduction. We're gonna get some questions from our councilman, Mr. DeMonico.
Sure. Could you detail some projects or initiatives that you've worked on in other municipalities that you've worked?
Sure. One of the major projects that I think that we've done in Bingham Farms, where I have been the city manager or village manager for 3.5 years, is to overhaul the zoning ordinance, not just the format, but also to amend various elements of the zoning ordinance to allow for greater flexibility for the property owners. As you are probably all well aware, COVID has had a tremendous impact on working from home, telecommuting, how companies and institutions function. And in Bingham Farms, most of the commercial property is along Telegraph Road, and there's about 30 office buildings. A lot of those buildings are experiencing a vacancy rate that they previously hadn't before COVID. I would say that the community was probably, or the business district was probably at capacity or 95%, close enough. Now, there are some buildings that are experiencing 50% vacancy. Lots of offices, lots of doctor's office, dentist's office, attorneys, accountants, that kind of thing. We have done some overhauling of the ordinance to allow for greater flexibility. One of those is to allow for educational uses in the commercial district. It's a success story. We've had a Hondros College of Nursing move in, 30,000 square feet. It is a private school based in Ohio and Indiana. This is their first Michigan location, and they should be open in the fall. I know that they're renovating the suite right now. Other elements are to add restaurants and food to a professional service district as an offering, to change the definition of medical. So our old ordinance, it was pretty much your standard doctor, dentist office. Well, we all know today that the practice of medicine has changed somewhat. People are prescribed physical therapy, people are prescribed sometimes yoga and dietary needs, and so we overhauled that element of the zoning ordinance to reflect the differences in medical practice. Another element to this is the master plan. The village has approved its master plan very recently. COVID kind of got in the way of that. It kind of delayed things by about a year. But we realize that one element that's missing out of that large office district is a mixed use. And so while we didn't alter the ordinance to allow for residential, in the master plan, we have included language that basically states that the village looks favorably upon any sort of project that would involve condos or apartments or lofts or something of that nature. We don't have that right now. And with some of these buildings, I foresee that happening at some point in time. It seems like it's inevitable. It may not be for another 5 or 10 years, but I think it's there. And the fact that we've opened the door for it makes things a lot more feasible.
Thank you.
Long answer. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, it's good to hear about, what you're proud of that you've worked on in other cities. So, thank you.
Thank you. Good answers. Councilwoman?
So my question for you tonight is, what made you decide, or what makes you think that you'd be a good fit for East Point?
I'm going to apologize right now for that clicking noise. every time I hit the button, it goes on and off, so anyway. What makes me a good fit? Well, there's, part of when someone goes into city management or municipal management, part of what makes them a good fit, or part of what they do is they kind of look in their geographical region and what's opened up, so that's just, part of it's just that I'm nearby. That I just live close by, but, I live right next door in a big city, in Detroit, and frankly, I used to live here when I was a little kid, as I've always had an affinity for this community as an inner ring suburb. I've worked in other inner ring suburbs as a newspaper reporter, so I think I know some of their unique challenges. This community it seems like it has a lot going for it, and I would like to help it move along further.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. I want to know, if hired, what is your plan for the first 30 to 90 days? What are your goals?
How many days?
You had 30 to 90 days.
30 to 90?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to certainly get involved with meeting as many people as possible, the residents, and getting intimately familiar with the community geographically. Of course, I would like to tour all the facilities and meet all the staff and all that kind of thing. I'd like to establish a relationship with council so that we could all get along. And usually when a new person is hired, there's a honeymoon, and I would like to take advantage of that, have everybody sort of get on the same page. Another element would be sort of looking at what is already in the budget this year, and that's that future fiscal planning suggestions. I think that it would be important to implement those, and maybe they won't be done in 90 days, but we can get started. I think that's important to do.
What have you done? Because I know you had some experience. What have you done in the first 30 to 90 days when you first started at your current job? What were some of the things that you've done there?
Just about everything I outlined, with the exception of the fiscal elements. There were some changes that we had to make in terms of our fee schedule and starting to enforce right-of-way permit fees. That wasn't heretofore done. I'm not sure why, but those are significant dollars. And we started when I started working at that community. The meetings were not televised. I was kind of surprised that they were not. And we started a plan to implement to get that done. It took some time. It was more than 90 days, but eventually we got a grant to wire the room, I guess you could say. So now those meetings are televised, recorded and televised. And I guess another element would be getting back to that master plan, to the zoning ordinance. We started that overhaul. So at one time, it was basically just a bunch of PDFs on the ordinance was a PDF on the website and hard copy in my office. Now it is a working document that is, of course, on the website, but it's user-friendly. It's searchable. It's very easy to read. There's all kinds of charts and graphs. It cost some money to have that overhauled. It was almost $20,000, but I think it was money well spent. And that's something that we started within those 90 days. I think the final passage might have been 6 months into it, but close enough.
Okay, sounds great. Councilman Curley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm curious to know, how have you connected and what groups and organizations have you been involved in and cooperated with?
In my current job?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Village of Bingham Farms contracts with a group called Next for senior services. Let me back up just a minute before I explain that and a few other elements. The Village of Bingham Farms is fairly tiny, and we have a clause in the village charter that prohibits the village from owning any property. So my office and all of the village offices are leased space in an office building. There's no There's no police department, there's no fire department, there's no senior center, there's no library. The village doesn't own any kind of property like that. There's no park. So any recreational or other kind of service that we would provide to residents has to come from somewhere else. And the village belongs to and helps fund Next, which is a senior program based in Birmingham. I am now on their board of directors. That was one of the major things that I had done to get involved with the community. We also assigned a village trustee to the library advisory board, and we were able to renegotiate our contract to get just a slightly lower rate in what we pay for library services. We have a sister village, well, two of them really. One of them is Beverly Hills, and the other one is the village of Franklin. And all three villages, Bingham Farms, Franklin, and Beverly Hills, are all in Southfield Township. So we have done a lot, there's been a lot of fostering of relationships between the three villages. And I'm not sure that that was always the case before I got there.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have our Councilman Baker.
What do you feel is the best way to connect and build a rapport with the community?
Well, part of that would have to be communication. It's one of my, frankly, I think it's one of my better skills. Communication involves not just speaking and writing, but also listening to folks. My previous job, previous career, I was talking to Brian back here. I used to be a journalist. I've conducted literally thousands of interviews with folks, which is not just listening and writing stuff down, but it's also asking questions and establishing a rapport. So I'd like to do some of that stuff with here. Another thing that I'm kind of proud of was that we in our village, I started a kind of, I call it sort of Village Government 101. It was a class that I conducted, like a lecture series where people would sign up, and I would just go through the ins and outs of what it takes to run a community. It was frankly a well attended and a nice little connection. Another thing that we've done, as I mentioned earlier, the village doesn't have any kind of recreational facilities, park or anything of that nature. But last year, we started the first ever Bingham Farms Family Fest. It was a pretty neat success story. We're able to use the parking lot in the building that my office is located in, and we got a bunch of community partners to put together a great little festival. This year, we're doing it again. Of course, it was outdoors, so that it was sort of COVID friendly, I guess you could say. This year, we're doing it again, and it's August 13th, if you're interested.
Okay. This was one that was already kind of, touched on, I think. But why are you interested in this position, like specifically here in East Point?
Well, I'll tell you what. It's just a natural career trajectory to move into to move from a smaller community to a larger community, and that's certainly what I would be doing. The village is only 1,100 people. This is a much larger community, and it's just I think I'm ready to move up to the next level, to managing another community with more employees and more space and more residents and more relationships. I'm prepared for that.
Great answers. I don't know if you were done. I forgot to acknowledge our director of DPW and also our assistant with our finance in the room. I was going so fast, so I apologize.
Hi.
Yeah, they're a major part of our team as well. Since we started back with our second questioning with Mr. Baker, we're going to bring it back this way. If you want to go ahead, Councilman.
Oh, for my second. Yes. City manager comes in every day, obviously, and there's a multitude of things that are on his or her desk every day. But you have priorities. What would you, if if you had to write down, well, let's say three things that you would consider a priority, regardless if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
Well, hypothetical questions always, they can throw me, I'll be honest with you. Three things. I think that I would want to make sure that I'm communicating with the staff, and I would make sure that I'm communicating with any elected officials with any concerns that they might have on a daily basis, and also communicating with the residents. I think that's 1, 2, and 3 right there. It's all based on communication, but there's 3 different classifications of people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doing your research on this community and also the community that you're coming from, what are certain ways that you know that would enhance our community as far as revenue and being creative and bringing additional revenue to the city of East Point in regards to your experience and where you're at? Did you do that at your previous position? And if not, what are some of your ideas to bring in extra revenue into the city of East Point?
Well, low-hanging fruit would be your fee schedule. Reviewing the fee schedule and increasing those fees if necessary, if they don't fall, if they're not in line with neighboring or comparable communities. That would be number 1. I believe you already have a business license program. But I will tell you, just because this is important to me, that Bingham Farms did not have one. We have approximately 350 businesses. Most of them located in office buildings. We didn't know what they were or what they were doing or if they complied with the zoning ordinance. So we took it some time. We had to put together an ordinance and have it approved, and now we have a business license program. That might, maybe the fee of that needs to be raised here also. I'm not sure until I look at it. But I think that's low-hanging fruit that I think could be immediately, make an immediate impact. You have a big community here with a lot of homes, and I would imagine there might be a lot of permitting that's done when it comes to maintaining those homes. And if your permit fees are really low, then perhaps it's time to raise them.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
So coming from a smaller community, what would make you think that you're qualified to come to a community that's basically like 36 times the size of where you're coming from? Like what, because obviously our cities ran it a lot differently. We do have a police department, we do have a fire department, we do have a lot more probably city officials, our own DPW that work here. So what would make you think that you're qualified for the position?
Well, we do contract for all the services that you just listed. We contract with Franklin for police services, with a private company that provides fire protection, which is I'd never heard of before I started there, with Beverly Hills for DPW services, with Southfield for building and permitting services. So all of these things are provided for. And my job is managing, not so much managing employees, it's managing contracts. However, you managing the people work in those departments in all those various communities, and in the service Bingham Farms, and I am responsible for communication with all those folks. So basically, they're department heads that contract rather than work directly for you, and perhaps there's some different element of finesse that is involved with dealing with them. I can't necessarily give directives. I have to basically make requests, which has to be maybe worded a little differently. But, the relationship is very similar, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Martin, probably a classic interview question, but could you detail a professional mistake you've made and how you've learned from it?
Well, that is a classic question, isn't it? Professional mistake. How specific would you like me to be?
Up to you.
Okay. I'm a musician, and when I worked in Lathrop Village as an assistant, we were in between rec directors. So there was a concert series that needed to be planned, and I basically just told everybody that I was going to plan it. No one said no, so I did, so I took it on. The new director was hired, and no one really informed her, including me, that that was happening. And that caused some consternation. I would never approach it like that again. I would have, the lesson that I learned from that, and, you know, all mistakes can be learning experiences if you look at them properly, I think, would be better communication. I mean, someone should have spoken with that woman before, much earlier than the concert series began. So anyway, that was a faux pas.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you play the same instrument I do.
I play the drums and I play the harmonica also.
I don't play that one. I got the drums though.
Mm.
But thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that is, I don't know if council have any more questions. If not, before I ask him if has any questions for us, I want to make sure I'll leave that open for you all. Do you all have any more questions?
No, I'm good, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Martin, do you have any questions for me and council?
Sure. Could someone describe the relationships with the neighboring communities? I'm just kind of wondering how East Point gets along with the neighbors.
I'll let Councilman DeMonico start, and then we have so many different relationships and partnerships, so he can probably name one, we all can name one.
Sure. I guess, I can pick one. I guess I'll start with recreation, but I guess it's probably similar to what you've had in Bingham Farms and stuff, but we are with Roseville for recreation, so we've got the recreation building is just outside of East Point and Roseville. It's basically halfway between our south border and Roseville's north border, and we do the services with them, and each city handles the park infrastructure themselves, and it's basically how that's set up.
That's rare? Is that what it's called?
The Recreation Authority of Roseville and East Point.
All right. Thank you.
Councilwoman?
So I guess I can touch on like our Chamber of Commerce. We share our chamber with Fraser and with Roseville. So, I mean, I think overall, we actually have a really good working relationship with all of our communities. I think that even a lot of our directors communicate on a regular basis with other communities, so.
Yes, and also, even though this is something that prior to the interview, I wish you would have had known this, Mr. Martin, but we deal with SMORSA and we also deal with SMSDA, which we partner up with Roseville, St. Clair Shores for our water and how we clean that, and then we dump that into Lake St. Clair. So we save a lot of money with that. And also with, again, SMORSA, that was founded a little bit before I came here, but it helps with a lot of our public safety in partnership with Roseville and also Hazel Park. Any additional, Mr. Rohill, with that, with SMORSA, if I'm missing something? So, yeah, so that's for our public safety and also our water department. Councilman?
Thank you. One of the things we've had and been involved in is the 8 Mile Boulevard Association. And we're able to communicate and cooperate and meet with several communities to particularly keep our 8 Mile Road in great condition. And just simply because we're where we're at, each community around us, St. Clair Shores, Roseville, Centerline, Warren, the functions that each city has, we kind of support one another and advertise one another's things that are going on. So, yeah, it's a great location to be because we're right in the middle of a lot of communities that work together, and that's a good thing.
Councilman Baker?
Well, just a couple Saturdays ago, we have here in East Point is something called the East Point Community Action Coalition. And the focus is about prevention, substance abuse prevention. And we actually just did a networking event with the Warren Centerline Coalition, and there were some members from, I believe, St. Clair Shores. They reached out to Roseville, so we had a common goal there. And actually, there's some other things we're looking to do going forward, just for the community, our respective communities. So it's, I would say, a great relationship with our surrounding communities. And also, I do know that our fire department does do things with other fire departments, like some of their training, talking about resources and things of that nature. I can't give you all the technical jargon for it, but I do know that much, that they do communicate with the neighboring communities, just as far as how, what they need to do or what they need for their respective jobs.
Thank you all. I am familiar with 8 Mile Boulevard Association, community coalitions in Smorza. I know Ed Klobuchar over in Hazel Park. So I'd like to know, if you wouldn't mind telling me, what exactly you're looking for in terms of a city manager. What are some of the qualities that you would hope to find?
Well, we can start again down with Councilman DeMonico and work our way back down.
Well, sure. I think, I think a lot of, different people can do the job, and I think, you want to look for someone with integrity and who's got drive. You got to be proactive, I think, to be the city manager, because, you'll be leading the way. So I guess I'll stick with that. I'd say integrity and being proactive be 2 top qualities of mine.
No, that's
Councilwoman Lucido.
It's okay. So thank you, Mayor. I would say that, what you kind of touched on was obviously communication with council, residents, and departments. But more so just, being someone who's really able to come up with ideas to make sure that the residents themselves are not left behind, because ultimately, our number 1 goal is always our residents.
What I'm looking for in a city manager is an investment. I want them to invest themselves in this community like they live here as well, and don't see it as just a paycheck, but also take it personal. So if the crime is up, or you don't see things in this community like it would be yours, I want you to take it personal as an investment. So when we hire someone, we want them to look at it as an investment with their time, their communication, whatever that, and their skills, and put that into the city of East Point. And again, also surrounding themselves, living around this community as well, because if you live around a community, whatever affects East Point will affect your community. So again, taking your position as an investment in our community and saying, like you live here yourself. So being an investor.
Thank you.
Councilman?
Yes. Community skills of community. Excuse me. Skills to be able to bring somebody in your office and treat them the same as you would anybody else. I would like to see somebody that, no matter who comes into your office, they're going to be treated the same, and not have any favorites. And that would be something I would be looking for.
Councilman Baker?
Thank you. Yeah, for me, it's really about the focus on the community. Building that rapport with the residents. I can echo the same sentiments as Councilman DeMonico with integrity, transparency. You have to be approachable. And how can I say this? You have to be willing to stand in front of someone and accommodate them, even when they may come in upset with you. And it's learning how to deal with that, and to deal with it in a professional manner. But the real focus has to be on the community and what's best for this city, for these residents. Also, someone who can build that rapport with the workers here in the city. You have City Hall, you have our different departments. You guys have to be able to work in tandem with one another and to still accomplish the goal of providing what's best for East Point.
Thank you
Any more
all.
questions, Mr. Martin?
Thank you all. I wanted to mention one more thing to you all. The other day, when I had an interview on Zoom with the department heads, one gentleman asked me about diversity, equity, and inclusion, While I haven't had any specific training in that regard, I would like to at least emphasize to all of you that I don't think I provided a very adequate answer during that interview. But I think it's something that, I'm 55 years old, and I've been living with diversity, equity, and inclusion for most of my life. Starting way back in college when I had a roommate who was an exchange student from India, and I worked in a Chinese restaurant. And I had an advisor, my sociology department advisor was an African-American man. And that's moved on to working for all kinds of people of different ethnic persuasions and different religions and different sexual orientations. So today, my wife and I live in a majority African-American city in a neighborhood that is one of the most diverse in the Midwest. We've lived there for 12 years. My wife's last name is Valdez. And we have transgendered relatives. We are as open and as accepting as you could possibly imagine. We belong to a group called Global Ties Detroit, which is affiliated with the State Department. We've hosted people from all over the world in our home, and we travel extensively. We've been not just to Florida and the Caribbean, but we've been everywhere. We've been to Turkey and Egypt and South America. I have a trip planned to South Africa. So I just wanted to mention to you all that it's really important to me, and I hope that you'll take that into consideration. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Was that your closing statement? Because I know we said questions, and was that your closing statement?
Yeah. Well, no, I just wanted to make that point at some point in time here today during the interview. My closing statement would be that it's been a privilege to be here in front of you, all of you today. This process, to be part of this process at all, was a privilege and an honor to have met the folks via Zoom the other day on Thursday, Friday, whatever it was. That was also an honor, and I got to tell you, no hard feelings if you go a different direction. I like what I do. I like where I work. I would like to move on and up, but that's just how things go. So whatever your decision is, I certainly, of course, respect it, and maybe down the line something else would pop up, and you might see me again. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
I believe our Mayor Pro Tem added to this that we'll have a discussion and come up with a resolution. So I don't know if you where he wants to go and step out when we do our next interview.
Yeah, I'm not
Mr.
going to
Martin?
hang around.
You can hang around. It's not over yet, but thank you for even taking interest in the city of East Point. And we're going to take a 10-minute break before we bring in Ms. Walton. And so you can tell her, give us 10 minutes.
I'm gonna take
Couple
this
minutes,
with
because
me.
we have a while. We have time before our next meeting, so we're going to do 10-minute break. Is that okay, council? Yes. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Well, only an hour and 40 minutes.
Thank you.
So I told you. that's good.
Okay.
Feel my hands are cold.
I'm
Oh, he's
anemic
trying to
too.
steal your heat.
Pretty much.
Cold
I feel
hands,
him.
warm heart.
I know that's right. Let me turn it around for you.
That, yeah,
It feels good, doesn't it?
yeah.
I can have it turned
My,
around.
my ring won't shrink, will it?
I can have it move around so it can
That's
spread.
great. Oh,
Okay.
thank you so much. That's great.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Oh, it's on? Okay, we are back. Directors over there. We are back. Then I want to share in that joke y'all over there laughing at afterwards. Because it seemed like it was really funny. So, yes, we are back and we are doing city manager candidate interviews for those that stepped in and want to know, what are we doing? It's not 7 o'clock yet. We are doing interviews for our next city manager. Okay, I think it's, okay, thank you, sir. And we just got done interviewing Mr. Martin, and our next candidate is Ms. Mariah Walton. Welcome to the, I know you've already had some time here, but we're gonna welcome you just like we would do with any other candidate for taking the time out to even apply to work for the city of East Point. So we thank you. I'm gonna do like any other candidate. We know, you know everybody. But to my right, we have Councilman DeMonico, as well as our Mayor Pro Tem, Sarah Lucido. On my left, Councilman Baker and Councilman Curley. And myself, I am Mayor Monique Owens. And if you look on the side of you have our Director of Public Works, Mr. Palucci, Director of Economic Development, Ms. Holman, our Director of Public Safety, Mr. Director Roheb, and our Director of Finance, Mr. Blum. And then Mr. McLeod and Mr. Gasson is also part of our team. And can't forget our attorney, Mr. Albright. So before we start this, we always want to give the candidate time to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about yourself, even though we get resumes and cover letters and things like that and have done our own research. We want to hear from you. So now you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'd like to introduce just, I guess, some of my background. So I started off, I went to Michigan State University. I had an interest in criminal justice and sociology. My interest was in serving communities and finding ways to better communities and policies for families in the community. I initially started off my work history in social work. I began teaching curriculum in cognitive behavior therapy to at-risk youth in the community and at residential placement facilities. I moved into foster care case management. I managed over 20 cases of families with children that were involved with the circuit court, created treatment plans, made recommendations to the court, testified in court. Moving from that position, and both of those positions were actually contracted either with a state government, state of Michigan, or with the county government. So when I was in teaching curriculum for cognitive behavior therapy, it was a contract position through the Bingham County Circuit Court. I transitioned into county government. I worked for Kent County Circuit Court. I had an interest in criminal justice at the time and utilized my skills in working with families to begin assessing and creating systems to track their neglect and delinquency programs. So I did that for over 4.5 years. And during that time, I ventured off and began my master's program, Master's in Public Administration through Grand Valley State University. In that process, and going to school at the same time and working full-time, I also did internships, additional internship work. I volunteered a lot of time with the city of Wyoming, the community that I worked in, volunteered on the boards and commissions for the economic development and the brownfield redevelopment in the city of Wyoming, participated in the development of an additional DDA in the city of Wyoming called 28 West, and continued to create additional programs and also studied and did a lot of researching in terms of budgeting and financing. Once I moved out of that position or finished my master's, I continued to volunteer for my community, the city of Wyoming, in those aspects, and then I began searching for a local government opportunity. I felt that I could make a stronger impact in local government and direct resources to families. County government, to me, moved a little bit slower and was more so a face and a number and didn't have direct connection to the people and the community that I felt that I wanted. And so I began looking for positions, and City of East Point is one of the positions that I applied for. I'm from West Michigan, the Grand Rapids, Wyoming area. I was offered a position as the assistant to the city manager for human resources and purchasing with the City of East Point under Ms. Doom's leadership, and I moved 160 miles over for that position to begin my service here in the City of East Point. After 9.5, almost 10 months, I was then offered the position, applied for and offered the position as the Assistant City Manager with the City of East Point, and in December, Honorable Mayor and the rest of City Council appointed me as the Acting City Manager for the City of East Point. I've enjoyed my journey and my service here in East Point, appreciate all of the directors and the people that I work alongside every single day, the residents and the connections with the organizations that are here.
Wow, that was a lot.
I'm
impressed.
Fast.
Yeah, I'm impressed. So, what we're gonna make sure that we do each candidate, like, do it each candidate the same. So the last candidate we had, each council member asked 2 questions, starting with Councilman DeMonico, and then we're gonna go back and ask the second question. So we're gonna start that with Councilman DeMonico at this time.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Hello, Ms. Walton. Can you talk about some projects or initiatives you've worked on that you're proud of?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest ones here actually in East Point is probably the Neogov online application system and the website. Enjoying HR, I was kind of taken back when I applied for the position. I initially had sent my resume in for the assistant to the city manager position, and I had to apply on a paper application, and that was one of the first things that I came in and wanted to change when I started. I felt as though, especially in 2020 at the time, and in the middle of a pandemic, it really inhibits people's ability to apply and have an interest in the community. And so in July of 2020, just 2 to 3 months after I started, I began a process of developing a Neogov application tracking system, went through the entire process of all of the coding and background and inputting all of the positions and backgrounds to put those into the Neogov system so that we could begin accepting applications for positions online. So I'm extremely proud. We're still utilizing that system now. It's very successful. We're seeing an increased amount of applications, also a very diverse applicant pool system, also people that are coming from and have interest outside of the state. So that is one thing that I'm very happy that we've been able to implement.
Thank you.
So my first question for you is, because you have limited, city manager experience, you've only been doing this for about a year, what makes you think that you're qualified to be the permanent city manager in the city of East Point?
Absolutely. I do have limited experience in an official city manager capacity. I don't have limited capacity in terms of a leadership role. And when it comes to training, the education, I've attained that. I've gone above and beyond to do what I can to be successful, to add additional tools to my belt to be successful, and to bring additional tools to the city of East Point and resources to the city of East Point. Also, after I started, I joined the Women's Municipal Leadership Program through Michigan Municipal League. That was also a 6-month training program on top of my master's degree in public administration that gave me additional background and training to fulfill that role. And I currently serve on the Michigan Municipal Executives Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Board to also give additional voices to others that can serve in city manager positions and making the city manager positions across the state of Michigan creating opportunities and mentorship programs so that diverse applicants know that they're qualified, can do it, and fulfill those roles.
Thank you.
If hired, what is your plan for the first 30 to 90 days?
That's a great question. So it's tough to say just because since Ms. Doom's departure, we've not been stagnant as a community. We as a team have continued to push forward, really achieve goals, and still keep moving. So we, although we're just in an acting position and down one person in administration, we're still moving forward. So even tonight on the schedule is an amended fee schedule that you see that we've amended, completely changed and hopefully organized and made much easier to read, which would have an impact on the building department. All of the goals that are listed in the budget message are all in motion. Those are things that we're currently doing, and in the next 30, 60, and 90 days, we'll continue to do. So we're moving forward. We'll have conversations about the budget next week, so we're still moving forward and have been moving forward during my entire appointment.
Thank you. Councilman Curley.
Thank you, Mayor. It's always good to see our city manager and a lot of our employees avail themselves to local groups and organizations. Have you had an opportunity to step into some of these organizations and local groups?
Absolutely. I have participated in a lot of groups, actually. As you guys had recommended, join the Chamber of Commerce, so I've participated with them. I've been at just about every grand opening in the past year and a half after the pandemic. I've participated in the Faith Council. I've participated in CARE, community outreach. I've been to the Rotary Club. So as much outreach as I can, and the things that I know about and that align with my schedule, I am absolutely have been and will be at and supporting the community.
Thank you.
Councilman Baker.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What do you feel is the best way to connect and build a rapport with the community?
I think being available and making those connections and attending, as Councilmember Curley had mentioned, attending those meetings and having those conversations. I think even the community action that I attended on the Saturday, and I actually bumped into you after sharing that information, being able to connect with people in the community in a different level and learn them, and they actually have an opportunity to learn and get to know me better and in a connection. So even, at the beginning of that meeting, having personal conversations and building connections will absolutely build those with everyone in the community. Even attending Planning Commission and the different boards and commissions meetings and being able to connect with people. Even though it's not a platform for me to have conversations, I can hear out all of the commission members, understand what their takes are, but also talk to people that are in the audience. I've even been able, we had business owners that show up to like ZBA or Planning Commission meetings and being able to step out and have conversations if they have concerns or different things. So I think just being available and being an active member of the community will absolutely do that.
Great
Second.
answer.
I'm sorry.
You want to start with your second one?
No, I mean,
Yeah, we're going to go back down to Councilman DeMonico for his second question.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Could you talk about a professional mistake you've made and how you've learned from it?
Absolutely. I would say one of the things when I was in foster care and just getting into foster care that I made a mistake with was they have FTMs, family team meetings. So when you get a new case, that's one of the things that you're required to do. There's multiple participants that are supposed to go through the process and requirements in terms of time to comply with the state requirements. I was under the impression from a conversation that I had with a CPS worker that meeting had already occurred. So I continued on with the case. And I found out the day of the hearing in front of the judge that the FTM did not occur. And that was one of my first and last interactions in terms of just assuming that something has happened. So I go above and beyond to have that communication, to collaborate with people, to double check if I'm in doubt, so that I am prepared. We've had the conversations and we can move forward.
Thank you.
Councilwoman.
Why did you decide to apply to be city manager for East Point?
Since I've moved over to this side of the state and I initially took the position, this community has been incredibly welcoming in terms of the entire staff. When I first started, everything was closed down. We have a phenomenal team. The department heads that work for this community are of utmost integrity. They are professionals and experts in their fields and do their best day in and day out. I know just in connections and working in HR and building connections with a lot of the employees, that the support of the employees in previous years has not always been prioritized. And I feel that even under Ms. Doom's leadership, it has been. And there's been a very different morale within the city. And I think changing the morale and supporting the employees changes the service that the community gets. And so I feel that in following Ms. Doom's footsteps and her mentorship, that I am able to do that, that I have done that. I support the community, I support the staff, and I'd like to continue to do that.
Thank you.
Can you tell us some creative ways that you believe that you can bring extra revenue to the city of East Point? Some ideas that you think will help us bring in more money to help us get things done?
Yes. So revenue is a tricky one. One of the things we are cautious of is, increasing taxes or millages or bonds increases taxpayers' money, the money that you pay into the community. And that is something that we have to be conscious of. A lot of people are on fixed incomes, don't have additional money to pay taxes to increase revenue. Grants are a very big proponent that assist communities, working with foundations that can sponsor different projects in the community would be something that doesn't impact the taxpayers, but does impact the progress, the infrastructure, and the things that we see within the community. One of the things that our team just put together was the solar grant. I know Councilmember DeMonico had mentioned that at one of the previous meetings, and we realized that we had a 2-week gap and applied for the solar grant to put solar panels on the library. So those kinds of things are not the cost of the taxpayers, but a grant that would be coming from an organization. So I think prioritizing those relationships, seeing and really being on top of it and proactive in terms of when things come out and applying for those is probably the best route.
Thank you. Councilman Curley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When you walk into your office, you probably have priorities. Maybe your priorities change each day, maybe they don't. What would you say your top 3 priorities are that you want to stay with?
I would agree with you, Councilmember. My priorities change every day. I come into work prepared for whatever the community needs and whatever the department heads and the staff need from me. Some days there are HR crises that you have to jump into a mode or go to another department. There are things that have happened in other departments where you have to be attentive, where I'm out of the office and in those buildings. And so I absolutely have to be aware just in general, I would say always, again, supporting the staff and the department heads. That is priority. Ensuring that they have a safe workplace, that they have a comfortable workplace, and that they have what they need to do their jobs. I'm not in every role and can't fulfill every role, so ensuring that they have that support is number one. And then the community. We do provide a service. We serve the community, and we're here for the community. And so one of the things, even when snow emergencies are called or people close city halls, that is something that we have to think about. People still come in to conduct business, and we have to do that in a professional way. We have to be available and friendly to the community and be a welcoming face. So those are absolutely my priorities when I come into work every day.
Thank you.
Councilman Baker.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
My question is similar to one that was asked, but what makes you, or why are you interested in East Point specifically?
So when I was initially looking for local government jobs, one of my goals was to find a community that I felt fit me. And East Point specifically, my connection was to the staff. When I came in, I actually went through the civil service process of being hired. So I completed a competitive examination amongst several other applicants. I scored in a top ranking and was invited back to do an oral board. Came back to this side of the state and conducted an oral board in front of 3 people that did not work for the city of East Point. Some were city managers, some were actually formerly employees of East Point. I scored in the top ranking of them and then went to a final interview. So I came back again to the city of East Point and did a final interview with department heads and Ms. Doom. It was two department heads and Ms. Doom for a final interview. And my connection really was with the staff. And I recall a lot of the things that Ms. Doom said in terms of supporting the staff and being a voice of reason for staff. And that was my connection to East Point. when I came over. Again, one of the big things is I came over mid-COVID, so April 2020, a lot of things were closed. You weren't able to go out to civic organizations. You weren't able, a lot of the businesses couldn't even operate. And so even one of the things that, we all banded together and had lunch just about every day, but we supported local businesses in the city of East Point during that hard time. So even seeing people pull together during that time, I knew that this is a place that I wanted to work.
I know we had 2 questions apiece, but like we did at the first candidate, we want to open up. Anybody have an additional questions to ask at this time? Okay, now it's your turn to ask us questions, if you have any. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask council? And then once we answer those questions, then we ask you to give us a closing statement afterwards.
Gotcha. I do actually have questions. My first would be, what role do you feel the city manager plays in helping the council make effective decisions?
I'm going to start with Councilman DeMonico and work our way down.
Sure, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I think, a good relationship and ultimately good decisions for the city is like a both-way kind of relationship. The council's going to have certain responsibilities, and the city manager will have certain responsibilities, and I hope we hear from each other on those different things. Of course, we vote on the budget, and I want to hear your input on the budget, and then, your responsibilities would be like the day-to-day management of everything in the city, and, I think if anybody up here has anything about that, I hope that they would talk to you about it, but we just recognize each other's final, responsibilities, and I would hope to see that with the city manager.
I think knowledge of what is going on in every department, and I'm not saying like you need to know like specifically, but if council comes to you with a question, to at least be able to have some knowledge of what that department is doing and not always have to redirect us.
Ask that question one more time.
What role do you feel the city manager plays in helping the council make effective decisions?
Well, your experience, but even if you don't have the experience, you have the experience of the team. And you mentioned a lot of things about team building and teamwork. And so, as a city manager, we don't expect you to know everything. No city manager knows everything. But again, in your interview, you said, you know what, if I don't know it, I go to my team who's experienced. And you get that knowledge to better help us, serve us with the knowledge. So, no one knows about water pipes or engineering and things like that. So we don't expect you to know things that people have those degrees in. But if you can, make yourself knowledgeable of those things. I know when I first got elected as a councilwoman, it's a lot of things that I didn't know. And as the mayor, I'm still learning, and sometimes, a lot of times, our residents expect you, when you take these elected positions, to know everything, and you don't. But I took the time out to go to our engineering firm, and I went all the way out to almost 30 Mile Road and sat with them for almost 5 hours to learn. Am I an engineer after that? No, I'm not. But I have some idea of, if a resident asks me a question of what's going on with our pipes and things like that, I have some idea and some knowledge of what's going on. Also, I visited where we hold our water and clean our water at. I went to that plant over there on 9 Mile and Jefferson. The first couple of days I was, a councilwoman. Am I an expert in cleaning water? No, I am not. But when our residents ask us, where is this extra money going to and why our water bill is so high, I can say, so we can have clean water. And this is what we're doing to make sure that you have a clean water and have a better quality of life. So we just want to make sure that, as a city manager, we don't ask you to know everything, but to be aware, just addressing some of the things and, taking time out for those trainings. And you said you have done all those things. And just having some idea of what's going on by that communication with the directors and the staff. So, if you don't know everything, that's fine, because, unless we're going to hire God today. But I don't think, God wants to be the city manager right now, so he covers every other city. But I said that to say, we just, I see me, council, and as the head, because people elected us as that, and we see the city manager as the neck. In order for us to turn and move and do things, we need a city manager that can help us do things. So. Councilman?
I have one word, partnership. I believe very strongly in that between the mayor and the council and the city manager, there has to be a partnership. We have to be able to have the line of communication open constantly and hear each other. That's one of the problems with our human beings. We don't hear because we're always ready to respond and speak instead of hearing. So I would say that a partnership between the city manager and the mayor and the council is extremely important. And when we have that, you have communication. And when you have partnership and communication, the wheels will stay on the rail.
Councilman Baker?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to echo some of the same sentiments that were already said up here, but I believe communication is where it starts. City manager has to communicate with us things that he or she needs city-wise to do the day-to-day business. We have to have information so that we'll know, okay, what are the implications of making certain decisions? What's the financial impact? That's really huge on almost everything that we decide on up here. So we have to have that open communication and dialogue. And also a willingness to tell us whatever hazards you may see as we're deciding certain things. When we bring ideas or different things to you, say, hey, can we get this program started, or we would like this, we would like that. We got to have that open dialogue. And, you know, there may be something that we might not know that you may know. And just having that communication and saying, hey, if you do this, these are some of the hazards, or there are some laws here that say you can't do that, or, you know, things of that nature. So just having that open communication and being willing to help us be as informed as we can be, because you deal with the administrative side of things. You touch things differently than we do, but we have to work together and still know that it's for the good of the community. And if we all keep that perspective of what we're doing here is for the community, then we have to just take our respective roles and just do that.
More questions, Ms. Walton?
I do. Is there anything that I've not been involved in that would be new for me if council and mayor were to appoint me as city manager?
Start with our Councilman DeMonico.
All right, starting down here. Let's see. That's a good question. I probably don't know everything that you've been involved in either. So, let's see. Well, I guess we'll be in. I mean, the budget is a huge thing all year round, not just for, you know, the couple months here. Of course, you're work on it earlier than it even comes to the council table. But I guess knowing more about how you do that, I mean, we'll be learning that very shortly, I guess. I guess hard for me to maybe answer that question, I guess.
Councilwoman.
I think you stay pretty involved in everything kind of going on in the city, so at this time, I wouldn't have anything new that I could have, but obviously with any director, city manager, I mean, if something came to light, I would obviously, address at that time.
I think you've been pretty active, and you have us to start some initiatives. I think the Clean City Initiative is coming up this Thursday, so not only have you been involved, you started some initiatives and partnerships. Councilman?
Well, thank you. Well, yeah, you could not have helped not being involved in everything, whether you're here 6 months or 10 years, and you've been involved in the budget process, and that'll be coming up very shortly. So we'll work together and have a partnership with that again.
Councilman Baker?
Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, as you stated already, you've been hands-on in the community, So the only way, as of right now, I can see anything new for you to be involved in is if something new comes up. Just listening to you, you've given a nice list of things that you've done and interests that you've taken in this community. So I think it would just be a case-by-case thing. As new things come, then those will be things that if you're offered the job, that you would just be encouraged to be involved in.
You have the floor. Any more questions, Ms. Walton?
No, Mayor.
I think we already asked our questions. It sounded like you asked your questions too. Do you have any closing statements before you leave?
I'd just say that I've, loved my tenure with the city of East Point. I've loved working alongside a phenomenal team in my last 5.5 months and working with all of you and coming in to build connections, to put things together. I've really enjoyed that process and seeing a lot of things come to fruition that we've had conversations about. It's great to see the community starting to be more active coming out of the pandemic, even though COVID is still there. But now seeing people's faces and getting to engage with people has been an incredible light. I appreciate the opportunity, even just making it this far. I appreciate Amy Sell and the process that they've put together. And other than that, I don't have any other comments, Mayor.
Okay. Well, we are going, you can probably step out like the other candidate, and we're going to make a discussion, and later on, we're going to have we're going to make a final decision. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to the next item that our councilwoman added for potential discussion and also decision-making.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. If we could maybe start out, I don't know if there's anyone maybe from the public that might want to speak before we have this discussion.
Or did you want to put that, I think,
Yeah,
I put it at the end,
Yeah,
okay.
just because that way we can take their opinions into consideration while we're making our discussion.
That sounds like a great idea. Does anybody at this time, we're going to open the hearing of the public so we can give people who are investors in the city as far as business owners, residents, and guests that would like to have any input at this time? Seeing none, that second hearing of the public is now closed, yes. So we're going to go right into the a discussion for our potential candidate and come up with a vote today. We're going to start with a discussion. Want to start off, Councilman DeMonico?
Sure, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think that was a good process, good interview. I wish we could, see a little better. Maybe if we knock down this area, let's just knock the whole thing down. It feels like a, congressional hearing. I joked with
Maybe higher chairs.
Mr. or higher chairs, yeah.
Oh, phone book.
But yeah, good process. I think, we've got two good candidates, which I think is a good thing. And I think right now, I am feeling Mr. Martin. I think he's got a lot of overall good experience, and a city manager needs a lot of experience in a lot of different things. He's been at a couple different cities, and he talked about all kinds of different things like, zoning ordinance to a college of nursing he had, master plan, condos. I think he would be able to do a good job. He seems very collegial, very personable, and yeah, I think that's my quick summary to start.
Okay, I'm just writing some notes. Councilwoman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I like when we have two good quality candidates. I like having an actual competition and really have a decision to make. I think that's important. So I'm really happy that we had the opportunity to interview both of them. I think they're both would be a good fit for East Point. Ultimately, I'm probably leaning more towards Ms. Walton. She's done a good job so far in her role as acting city manager. I know that she's still learning, but I feel like she is learning the position as she is in that position right now. And, hopefully, once we get a new assistant city manager in place, hopefully together they can, work together to really, keep things flowing in the right direction here in East Point.
Yes, ma'am. I think both candidates were good. I would go with Ms. Walton for several reasons. She has a master's degree, and we can talk, well, we all went through her resume, and we know all her education, but let's talk about what she has done for the city of East Point during a pandemic. She has attended so many things. She pushed this city forward. She has a good rapport with the staff and the residents, and she is invested in this community. Even before she knew this position wasn't even open, but even taking herself to move closer to East Point shows dedication and that she's invested in this community. So again, earlier when I talked to the last candidate, and I talked about investment, and she's an investor here in the community. So she invests her time, her energy, and we need someone like that for the city of East Point. Councilman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's an old saying from an old movie, and it goes this way: you have to know the territory. And I think Ms. Walton knows the territory. She knows the employees. She has an incredible relationship with all of the employees and all of the department heads. Her enthusiasm, even though she has not been in that position for a long time, but her enthusiasm to learn, to take educational courses is remarkable to me. And I think she's ready. And the cooperation that she would get from all of the employees and the department heads have already showed what she can do, and her enthusiasm and her skills that she has. So my vote would be for Mariah Walton.
Councilman Baker?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and both candidates, like you said, Madam Mayor, read the resumes, read the questionnaires, everything, and see that they both bring interesting perspectives and experiences. But one thing that stood out with me, and I would just say that my vote would be with Ms. Walton. The thing that I was really focused on was what they said about the community. And when I asked about why they were interested in this position, Mr. Martin said that he was looking, it was just his career trajectory, looking to move up to a bigger community. But when I asked that question to Ms. Walton, her focus was more so on the community and the staff. And that's just something that has to be in you. And it's not that it's not in Mr. Martin. I'm not taking anything away from him. But that was her focus that came out. When I asked about building that rapport with the community, and Mr. Martin, he did give the answer of communication, but Ms. Walton's response to me was just a little more in-depth in that investing in the community, like you said, and being hands-on in different things, and spending that time. And that's just something that you have to, it has to come organically, you know, building that rapport. And she's put boots on the ground and got involved and, you know, coming in during that pandemic year, and even with seeing the need for a better way of applying for positions, thinking of others. Those are things that jumped out at me. And to me, it's all about the community that you're serving, and that has to be a priority. So I would have to go with her for my choice.
Yes, sir. Any more discussions or opinions on that?
I'm sorry, what?
Any more discussion or opinions before we make a vote? Because Councilman DeMonico.
Sure. Yeah, one more thing. Yeah, I think, again, this has been a good process, I think. And I'd want to say, I think that Mr. Martin and Ms. Walton would be a good team. And I say that because I think, of course, you know, Ms. Walton's been thrown to the fire here where, you know, she came into the city, been here a year, then was, you know, appointed assistant city manager by Ms. Doom, and then, acting city manager shortly after, of course, because Miss Doom left. I think, I think with Mr. Martin's experience and hers, quite different, obviously. Even just before their municipal experience, he's a journalist. She was in social work, and working with the courts. I think that would be good for the city as a whole. And I think they both definitely seem like they are, happy to be working in city management and like proud of their accomplishments in city management. So I think that's why it'd be good, and I think Ms. Walton could be a good city manager, a few years from now after a little bit more experience, but that's why I'm leaning towards Mr. Martin.
You want to say something?
If you don't mind, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, and I do agree with Councilman DeMonico to a certain extent. I think that when it comes to the experience, even though Ms. Walton's experience is limited because she's only been assistant or acting city manager combined for a little over a year, I don't think Mr. Martin's experience is that much greater because he's worked for such a small community. I do agree, though, that they would make a good team. And, I mean, I would encourage Mr. Martin to apply for the assistant city manager position in here, and maybe that would give him even more bigger city experience, because I don't think he has the background of working for a bigger municipality. For Ms. Walton before did work for a county, so she does even have like that experience working for a larger municipality.
Any other statements?
Well, I've already made my statement why I would choose Ms. Walton. I'm ready to make a motion, Madam Mayor, whenever you say it's in order.
I just want to say about Ms. Walton and also all of the directors here. A lot of our directors who don't even live in the city, they answer their phones on the weekends, they come to events when they're not paid, and I look at that as an investment, So we want people not to just get this job because it's a step up or, it's something new to them. We want them to say, this is something I love to do, and I take it seriously, and I'm an investor. So, when I look at the directors that we have right here, and I look at Ms. Walton, they have an investment in this community. So we want to make sure that we are hiring people that invest in this community, their time, dedication, and it's not doing it for the money. So, and I think that we found that candidate tonight. So, yes, ma'am.
Madam Mayor, I just have one quick question for our city attorney before we move on to making a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
And that would be, should we discuss contract and add that to the motion, or should they be separate?
I'd recommend that be separate.
Okay.
Yes, sir, you ready to make a motion?
Separate motion for what?
After we discuss the contract.
Oh,
So, yes, so I'll move forward with making a motion to extend a city manager offer to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mariah Walton. Sorry.
Anybody want to?
Support
that's all
that.
right, go ahead.
Okay, motion and support, please call the roll.
Sorry.
Who supported it? Oh, you did. Oh,
Councilman Baker.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Curley,
yes.
Mayor Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
No.
Next, we have mayor and council reports, starting with
Madam Mayor, if we may just maybe discuss
the contract.
a contract real
Oh, I'm
quick.
sorry, yeah.
So I don't know how the rest of council feels, but I'm fine with moving forward with offering Ms. Walton the contract that Ms. Doom had.
Yeah, are you looking for a motion?
Well, I mean-
I'll let you make it.
Well, let's do discussion first before you make a motion. I think Councilman Baker wanted to speak on it.
Yeah, and Ms. Doom was already on when I got appointed to council, so I wasn't a part of that discussion. But I'm curious, what is the term or the length of the term that we're looking at?
Hold on, I'll look it up real quick. Mr. Albright just sent it out this week.
Mr. Albright, do you know about her?
It was initially a two-year contract. There was also a provision in there about offering Ms. Doom because she lived somewhat far from the city. There was an incentive for Ms. Doom to move in the city. I don't know if that's still a provision that the council would want in Ms. Walton's contract. I believe that she does live in close proximity to the city of East Point already. But again, that may be something that the council would want to discuss with her, or perhaps offer some type of other incentive in lieu of that provision that was offered to Ms. Doom.
Yeah, I know in some contracts, when you live near your job, you get an incentive. If you live near the hospital, you know, I think that people give those incentives all the time. Council?
Yeah, if I may. Yeah, I understand that. I know Ms. Walton just moved and purchased a home close to East Point, but I would like to keep it still the way the contract is written, because ultimately, if we could get her to move into East Point, I would think that is even better, so, it's my opinion.
Does everybody think 2 years is the best way to go on that one?
What do you prefer? What's your idea?
Well, I got two schools of thought. I mean, one, I mean, of course, I want some stability and some longevity. But I'm interested in hearing other perspectives, other ideas of how you guys feel about that. And I don't know what that magic number is. Should it be 4 years? Should it be 3 years? I don't know. But I would like that commitment from both parties, from us and from Ms. Walton, you know, that we get some longevity here, because, you know, we know how it's gone in the past, you know, for one reason or another. But I'm just open to hear how you guys feel about that.
Good question, Councilwoman.
What was the contract, what did the contract say for our last city manager? Was it a 3-year contract, 2-year contract?
It was a 2-year contract,
2 years.
and, I mean, I'm fine with the 2 years, because she's going to gain more experience in 2 years, and she may want to renegotiate her contract at that time also. But not only that, I think 2 years is a reasonable amount of time to really assess how she's going to do in the position, and hopefully she'll continue to grow with our community like she has since she started here.
Mr. Albright, have you ever seen contracts for a city manager supersede 2 years? And then in between, because I know annually we have to do a review anyway. So, and then we can revisit the contract after 2 years. So we did decide or think about doing a 4-year. Every 2 years, we can go, if she wants to revisit the contract or something like that. Have you seen something like that before?
No, I haven't, Madam Mayor. The council would be free to come up with contract terms that were suitable to the city council. If you wanted a review period in there, if you wanted to extend it to a period of 3 years, again, that would be up to the council to negotiate and decide on.
Yeah. Councilman Curley. Councilman Curley, do you have any feedback on that? He said 2 years for the contract. Did you have any ideas extending it, or?
Well, it would be a 2-year contract, and after the first year, you would renegotiate a new contract, right? Isn't that the normally way it goes?
I think after
I mean, you don't wait till the end of the 2 years to negotiate a new contract.
If they want
Towards
to,
the end.
yeah, towards the end, when the contract is about to be over, they can come back and say, well, if I'm gonna do an additional 2 years or stay with you, they can renegotiate their contract if they want. So, I mean, I'm open to doing a 3-year, because sometimes, like you said, longevity. We have we've been through a lot of city managers the last, I don't want to say, I can say a couple years, but it seemed like the last couple, yeah. How many we've been through, like 3 or 4?
Quite a few.
Well,
Quite a few, so it might let people stay longer if they see that, make people stay longer if it's 3 years. They know they have some security in their job. What do you all think?
no, I mean, I would, like I said, I would support, obviously, that we all can renew the contract in 2 years. We're not saying that she's limited to only working here for 2 years if we do a 2-year contract, so.
I mean, what would be wrong with a 3-year contract, council members?
I think a 3-year contract would be something new, and I think it would keep our city manager here. And then people don't like the overturning with management all the time.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to get some opinions out here for 2 or 3. I would agree to a 2-year contract, but someone said that you wait till almost the end of the contract to renegotiate, but if a 2-year contract, you don't wait till there's 90 days left on the contract to start renegotiating. You can renegotiate it much earlier than that
Yes.
to renew the contract, and at that point in time, you can negotiate for whatever length of time that you both would agree to.
Well, a good thing about extending the year is that we have them locked on that type of amount that we're paying them somewhat. Nobody's locked into it, but if she says, okay, I'll be here for 3 years with this amount of money, then 2 years later, ask for an additional 10, 20,000, at least in that 3 years, we know that what our budget is for that amount of money that, that this person is applying for. Counsel?
So, actually, Madam Mayor, now that I'm sitting here thinking about there's maybe one other thing I might want to add, is that in the contract, I believe it said, her first review was like, was it 90 days or after?
I believe it was 90 days.
Yeah, I would like to make sure there's language in there saying that we're going to do a review with her within the first, maybe like 60 days of her hire, only because she has been our interim city manager. So we can kind of maybe sit down, discuss if we do have any concerns with her, because we've already worked with her for some time. So it might be a good time to start out with a review so she can start working forward with anything, any concerns that we do have. I don't know if the rest of the council would agree with that. And if you guys want to extend a 3-year contract, I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to it, whatever you guys decide.
I'd say extend it to 3 years with the same amount Ms. Doom made. We don't want to keep trying to hire different companies every 2 years to find a city manager, or have a person keep on hiring city managers and things like that. I think it'll kind of lock in some type of stability for the city. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Sure. Well, I don't think the length of time on the contract has had anything to do with the turnover. The first city manager we're talking about, where we've had, 3 in 6 years, 5-6 years, is because the council fired the first one, and then the second one we hired and then fired, and now the third one left after 2 years. So who knows if it was 3 years, she might have left, a year early. So I'm not sure that that difference is why we've had those different city managers over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, I mean, just extending it a little bit shows that at least it gives them a little security that we're serious about having somebody here, and it's just not going to be a revolving door from the side of council. So, I mean, I would be comfortable with that. 3 years is it's an extra year. I wouldn't be opposed to that. The 60-day review, I mean, and like Councilwoman Lucido said, because we're kind of like right on pace for that anyway. We already worked with her for, going on 6 months now? So in 60 days, it would kind of feel normal anyway. So I wouldn't be opposed to that either. But I just want her to feel that, we're serious about having someone there. Because if there are concerns, we're going to have to address that anyway. So that's pretty much all I got on that.
So I think we have a lot of people were talking about, had the idea for a 3-year contract with an additional add-on to 60 days for a review, keeping the contract as is as far as the compensation, and any other additions that you all can think about.
I think that that incentive to move in, I think that was a good idea from Councilwoman Lucido.
Madam Mayor, if you're ready, I can make a motion.
Please.
So I'll motion our attorney, Mr. Albright, to prepare a contract to offer Ms. Doom that would mirror the contract that was available to, contract to Ms. Walton, that would mirror the contract that we had given Ms. Doom, with the exception of changing it to 3 years and adding in there some language saying her first review will be within the first 30 to 60 days of her signing the contract.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll support that. But I do have a question, Madam Mayor. Since I don't think any of us, except for the city attorney, has a contract of our former city manager, and we're talking about the same salary, right?
Yes,
And,
yes, I want, yeah.
and I think the people watching at home and right here would probably say, well, what is it? So why don't we, let's broadcast it, what the salary is, and everybody knows. So I will yield to my friend on the right.
I believe it's $122,000.
123.
122.
122.
122, yes.
Okay, folks, it's 122,000. Thank you. At least now they know. It's open. It's what do they call that, silhouette? No, when you can see through things, not silhouette.
Transparent.
What?
Transparent.
Transparent, right, not silhouette. Transparent.
Okay, we
Thank
have, were you done, Councilman, before I call the roll?
What?
Were you all set?
I'm
You ready? Okay. You have motion and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes,
Councilmember Curley,
Yes.
Mayor Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
No.
Okay, we're going to go to mayor and council reports, and we can move it right along, starting with Councilman DeMonico.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thanks. Yeah, I think it was good. 2 good interviews, a lot of good discussion at the table. I guess that's all. I think we've talked about it enough. So that's all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Councilwoman?
yes, I would just like to thank Mr. Martin for his time this evening, for coming out and interviewing with us, along with Ms. Walton. Thank you to Amy Sell for their help in this process, and that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Baker?
All right. I'm going to echo the same sentiments. Thank you to Ms. Walton and to Mr. Martin for expressing interest in this community. Thank you to Amy Sell. I know it's been a rocky road trying to go through some of the bumps and hurdles, but just thank you for what you've done in providing the service, and that's it.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Curley?
Thank you. I echo the thank yous for the 2 candidates came and spoke to us. It's not easy for them to sit there and answer all the questions that they have. So that's it, and I'll have more to say at 9:30.
Right. I'm going to echo what all my council have stated. I want to thank you to all the candidates that even applied. We had a nice amount of people that applied. And the 2 that raised the bar a little bit more than the others, I want to thank them for coming out, and even those that even thought about working for this city. That is amazing. Thank you to Amy Sell. Thank you to everyone that helped with this process, directors, staff, and things like that, and also to the residents. But we're going to move right along into our next council meeting after a break, and I'm going to ask council for adjournment, please.
So moved.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Curley,
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Yes, meeting adjourned.